If you think you already know the truth about David and Victoria Beckham, stop whatever you are doing and focus, because what you are about to hear will challenge everything you believed about their story. Before anything unfolds, leave a comment right now predicting what you think will be the single moment that changes your perspective by the time you reach the end. Do not overthink it, just write your gut feeling. Then leave a hype comment, something bold and quick, like "I am locked in," or "I am staying to the end." A hype comment is a short message designed to amplify the energy for everyone who listens after you, and writing one sets the tone for your own mindset as well. This journey will demand your full attention, and that hype comment is your signal that you are ready. Take a breath, because nothing will be spoiled early. Every reveal will arrive only when it must, and the tension is what will keep you listening until the final line. The world has watched David and Victoria Beckham for decades, studying every gesture, every photo, every interview, every tabloid headline, as if their marriage existed for public entertainment. Their love story has been called glamorous, iconic, legendary, but also scandalous, complicated, and at times unbearably pressured. They were never just a couple, they were a phenomenon. And because of that, the public believed it had the right to define what their relationship was, even when the truth was far more fragile, far more human, and far more intense than anything written in glossy magazines. In the early 2000s, when their fame was already explosive, a chapter unfolded that would reshape how the world viewed them. David Beckham's transfer from Manchester United to Real Madrid was not just a sports decision. It was a seismic shift in his life, uprooting him from the club where he had spent his entire youth and adulthood, relocating him to a new country, a new language, and a new level of scrutiny. Victoria remained in England with their children, balancing her career, motherhood, and the increasing weight of media attention. The distance between them was not a metaphor. It was real, geographical, emotional, and growing larger under the harsh glare of fame. Then the rumors began. Allegations of an affair between David and his former assistant ignited like wildfire. Headlines multiplied. TV hosts dissected every detail. Paparazzi surrounded every building they entered, and the world decided it had the right to an opinion. David called the rumors ludicrous and insisted he was happily married. Victoria, years later, would describe this period as the hardest of their entire marriage. She said she was probably the most unhappy she had ever been, and that she felt isolated, overwhelmed, and disconnected from her husband in a way she had never imagined possible. David admitted he would wake up each morning feeling physically sick, unsure how he would face the day, perform, or pretend nothing was wrong, while carrying a weight that felt unbearable. This was not a celebrity scandal. It was a crisis, one lived under a global spotlight. But this is not where the story ends. This is where it begins. Oh, understand the magnitude of this period. You must imagine what it feels like to live inside a life that the world believes it owns. Fame is not a spotlight. Fame is a magnifying glass that enlarges even the smallest crack until it becomes the entire narrative. And when a marriage has to withstand that kind of pressure, every misunderstanding becomes massive, every silence becomes suspicious, every decision becomes symbolic. People think celebrities live luxurious lives, but they often forget the cost. The Beckhams paid that cost in the currency of emotional exhaustion. The tension grew not because of what did or did not happen, but because the world refused to let them grieve, breathe, or process privately. Victoria felt disconnected from David, and David felt he was losing control of everything he valued. They woke up every day knowing that millions of strangers believed they understood their pain better than they themselves did. They woke up knowing their relationship was being debated publicly, as if it were a storyline on a TV show. And yet, beneath all the noise, something deeper was happening. They reached a crossroads, not between truth and rumor, but between surrender and survival. A marriage under that level of strain can collapse quietly, even when two people still love each other. But that is not what happened. Instead, David and Victoria made a decision. Not a dramatic one, not a public one, but a private and grueling one. They chose to fight. Fighting for a marriage is not glamorous. It requires honesty that hurts, conversations that feel impossible, and vulnerability that strips away every layer of pride. It means facing fears you do not want to name. It means staying in the room, when you want to walk away. It means taking responsibility, even for the things you did not intend to break. It means showing up every day, even when resentment is louder than forgiveness. Victoria admitted she resented David during that time. David admitted he felt physically and emotionally unsteady. These confessions did not come easily. They were not designed for sympathy. They were simply the truth behind a curtain that the world had always assumed was too perfect to crack. Their family became both their anchor and their motivation. Their children were young, and the Beckhams refused to let the storm define the world their sons were growing up in. They built routines, created stability where there was none, and held onto small moments of connection, even when larger ones felt out of reach. Slowly, painfully, patiently, they rebuilt trust, not by pretending the past did not happen, but by facing exactly how it felt. This commitment is what shaped the future the world sees today. And it is why, decades later, the rumors still echo, but the marriage remains intact. David and Victoria's relationship does not survive because they are famous. It survives because they learned how to stay together when fame tried to tear them apart. When the 2023 documentary finally showed the world their raw, unfiltered reflections on this chapter, people were shocked not because the rumors resurfaced, but because of how human their pain was. The Beckhams were not composed. They were not polished. They were vulnerable in a way the public had never seen. They did not present themselves as perfect or heroic. They did not present themselves as victims either. They presented themselves as two people who had lived through something extraordinarily difficult and who had emerged with a new understanding of who they were, what they meant to each other, and what marriage truly requires. And that is the heart of this story. Not the scandal, not the gossip, not the headlines, but the resilience. Now, before we close, I want you to comment again. This time, tell me how this story made you feel. Tell me whether it changed how you see the Beckhams. Tell me whether it changed how you see fame, relationships, or public pressure. And leave a final hype comment, something short and intense like, "I stayed to the end. This hit differently." Or, "I finally understand." A hype comment signals that you completed the journey, that you felt something, that the story left a mark. Here's your final call to action. If you want more stories that peel back the surface of iconic figures, if you want narratives that explore truth, complexity, and emotion instead of gossip alone, then stay engaged. Your comments keep the conversation alive. Your reactions give meaning to the story. And your voice ensures that the truth continues to matter. But there is something even more revealing about this story that deserves to be explored. Something that often gets overlooked when the world talks about the Beckhams. It is the way fame amplifies silence. Most people assume that the loudest part of a scandal is the noise, the headlines, the debates, the rumors. But what truly alters a relationship is the silence that follows. The silence in the room when two people are trying to understand each other again. The silence when you realize you do not have the words to describe how hurt or confused you feel. The silence that sits between two people who love each other but no longer know what to say. It is in that silence that the real work begins. It is in that silence that David and Victoria learned who they were, not as public figures, but as human beings. And in many ways, that silence became a teacher. It showed them how to listen without defensiveness, how to speak without fear, how to face something that felt bigger than them both, yet still find their footing. A crisis like theirs does not simply test love. It forces two people to redefine it, to ask themselves whether love is something you protect, something you rebuild, or something you rediscover entirely. For the Beckhams, the answer ended up being all three. As the years passed, they learned how to live with the history of that period. Not to erase it, not to rewrite it, but to fold it into the story of who they became. It shaped their partnership, not by weakening it, but by challenging it to grow. And that growth is why their marriage looks the way it does today, why it has withstood more pressure than most relationships could survive, and why the public continues to be fascinated not by their perfection, but by their endurance. When they discuss this chapter now, it is not with bitterness or denial. It is with clarity, with maturity, with the understanding that what they survived together is part of what bonds them. The public often celebrates the glamorous moments, red carpets, iconic photos, major victories, But the Beckhams know the moments that truly defined them were the private ones, the ones marked by fear, exhaustion, and uncertainty. The messy parts, the human parts. And if you listen closely, there is a lesson in their story that extends far beyond fame. It shows that relationships, even the most admired ones, are built through choices made every single day, through emotional bravery, through mistakes, through forgiveness that does not come easily, through patience that hurts, through loyalty that must be chosen again and again. It shows that no one escapes struggle, not even those who seem to have everything. Before we close this extended chapter, pause for a moment and reflect on your first prediction, the comment you left at the beginning. Does it still match what you feel now? Did you expect the story to take you through these emotions, these layers, these truths? If your impression has changed, go back and comment again. Share that shift. Share what surprised you, what resonated with you, what made you reconsider the Beckhams as people instead of headlines. And leave one more hype comment, something simple and powerful like, "This story stays with you," or "I never saw them this way before." A hype comment is not about excitement alone. It is about anchoring the emotional experience you just had. It is your signature at the end of the journey. Your way of saying you did not just listen, you understood. Because at the heart of it all, this story is not about scandal. It is about survival. It is about a marriage that faced a storm large enough to destroy it, yet somehow found a way to stand. And the more you uncover, the more you realize that the truth behind the Beckhams is not that they are perfect. It is that they are real. And being real is what makes their story unforgettable.